Welcome back, everybody, to the Mike Gormley Show. We were sliding into this part of the show with a song we just heard called "Secrets and Lies," and it's another title. I think we need to hear the story behind that. It's kind of intriguing.
Yeah, that one was a situation where I ran into the partner of a very good friend of mine, and I knew that he had made some promises and said some things to my friend, but I caught him in the act of not doing those things. Let's just say
Mm-hmm.
it like that. And so there was one, the dilemma of do I tell my friend or not, which I did. And then secondly, it just got me thinking about I'm just not a person who could do that. I'm not able to, I'm not, I don't think I'm very good at not being honest.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
so it really got me thinking about what kind of person, like, what is that about? Is there kind of um, what motivates someone to keep secrets? I mean, yes, of course, there's like shame. I'm sure there's things that you're ashamed of, but in order to kind of keep doing it and be sort of one of those people who's kind of lying to a lot of people, what is that like? Like, is there kind of a rush to it? Do you feel like you're sneaking around? Is there some sort of weird thrill to it? Or yeah, anyway, that was kind of what started that song.
That's interesting. It's a little bit of a life philosophy. Did you ever tell your kids to listen to your lyrics?
Oh no,
No?
definitely not. No, I think no, my kids are great, but they're not really all that interested at this moment in sitting down and listening to my work.
Uh-huh.
And they'll listen to it once and be like, "Yeah, that's cool." That's about that's what I get.
That's about it. All
Yeah.
right. Well, yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
good considering what some kids say. So, speaking of kids, you were a kid, and you mentioned earlier your mom was in the music business and or in not the music business per se, the music side of the business.
Yeah.
And tell me if I got it right, but she co-wrote Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
She did. She wrote, she's best known for being the composer lyricist of The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, which was a big hit show on Broadway in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And then it became a movie with Dolly Parton. And all of my mom's songs, almost all my mom's songs, were kept in the movie, including one called Hard Candy Christmas, which Dolly Parton recorded. And that became like most performed country song of 1981.
Wow. Wow.
My mom has written for so many people. They've recorded her songs have been recorded by Barbara Streisand and Tony Bennett and Kermit the Frog, and she wrote for Sesame Street. Just many, many people. Leanne Rhymes. Just there's just a big list. I should have it in front of me, but yeah, she was working the entire time I was a kid. She was from Texas, and she moved to New York City when she was like just graduating from college, got herself up to New York, and her dream was always to write Broadway musicals, but she got a little bit sidetracked with getting a record deal in the 70s, like I said. And
Yeah.
so she went out on tour and was kind of doing the singer-songwriter thing during the like Carly Simon era. Um,
Yeah. What's her name again? His full name?
Carol Hall,
All
Hal.
right. All right.
But her records weren't as successful as her later career. Her initial songs, I think she didn't initially she didn't really imagine that she was going to be a performer. She was just going to be a songwriter, and so that surprised her. And she ended up, playing these large stadiums and things like that. I think that was a little bit uncomfortable for her to a certain extent, although she definitely had her performer side. But she'd been trained. She was kind of pushed into music when she was 3 years old by a stage mom in Texas, and she started very classically trained piano and stuff. But ultimately, she wrote a lot of commercial jingles when I was a kid to just, pay the bills. And then wrote for Sesame Street, wrote a couple of songs on the iconic 70s album Free to Be You and Me, which was a big deal
Sure.
in certain places. And then, yeah, Best Little Whorehouse was her big hit. And then, of course, she had other shows that didn't get on or didn't last as long. But she passed away like 6 years ago. I'm incredibly proud to be her daughter. And I have recorded in this last year, I've recorded my own version of two of her songs, and then another version of a duet that we always sang together that was from Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. And And
But you
I'm
did one of the ones you did was the Christmas one you just mentioned.
yeah, Hard Candy Christmas, yeah,
Yeah.
which is a wonderful song and extremely popular during the Christmas season. And it just has felt really great to do that because when my mom was ailing and getting to the end of her life, I, was sitting there by the bed and I just said, we have your songs. I mean, you might leave us in the body form, but you will always be with us. We'll be singing your songs. And to still do that moves me, and it's just a huge
That's
honor.
an amazing accomplishment. Really, people talk about, that the name of the whatever somebody's hit or somebody's hit play or whatever it might be. But it's it's a stamp on everybody's lives. I mean, something that that big, that powerful is not going to go away for a long, long time. So it's very good way to look at it.
Yeah, I
You,
recently saw there was a community theater out in Los Angeles, an excellent theater company that did a production of Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. I hadn't seen it in about 20 years. The last time I'd seen it, Anne Margaret was touring the country and doing a special version of it that she starred in. But I was sitting there and reliving my entire adolescence because basically the show opened off Broadway when I was in seventh grade and it closed when I was like a senior in high school. So it was my entire adolescence. And some of the songs are pretty racy. I do think that it will be revived on Broadway in the next year or so. Things look
yeah.
quite good for that, and I think it's a really good time for it to come back because it's actually a lot about political hypocrisy and it's very timely and it still holds up. But when I saw this production, I was just so struck by how I know every single line and every word. I saw it so many times. And it was really cool to be a kid like in New York City, which was already a cool thing growing up in Manhattan, but then also to be a Broadway backstage kid and the doorman at the backstage door knew me. And it was really fun.
I'm glad it was fun because some people grow up sort of resenting having that life. But for you, it was fun. So that makes it fun for you even now for to write and so on. It's a pleasant experience.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I don't know what you're referring to in terms of resenting. I didn't resent it, but I will say that there's definitely something that happens. And I think this is for anyone whose parent is successful or parents are successful, like really successful in a certain way. It can be really intimidating,
Mm.
And honestly, I sang a ton as a kid. But I didn't get pushed into music because my mom had been pushed. So then she didn't want to push me. And so I, didn't really have as much musical training. And I sang, but I gotta say, in terms of being a songwriter, I really pushed it away. I never ever thought that I would have been writing songs. If you'd asked me when I was,
Interesting.
15 or 20, I was only going to be an actress. That's what I was doing. And I came out to LA to be an actor, and like I just didn't. I thought that's my mom's thing. Like I didn't want to be compared to her. I didn't want to come up short when people compared me. It took me a long, long time to give myself permission to do my own thing musically.
She got to hear your music though, right?
She did. She did. And
Good.
she was always
Wait, was she
encouraging.
critical?
Well, yes, and encouraging at the same time. We really did different things. Like she really wrote for musical theater, and even her songs on her Elektra records were very charactery. Like some of the songs are pretty strange. I've been listening to them because I'm going to do an evening of her songs in the next couple months, and
I,
they're character studies. And I remember she asked me at one point, I played her something and she was like, who's the character? I don't understand. And I was like, I'm the character, mom. This is my song about me because I tend to write very self-reflective.
yeah, she's writing for some other character.
Yeah, she's writing for like a story on a stage. And I
Yeah, interesting, huh?
so we had really different perspectives.
Well, cool. Well, we're gonna slide out to another commercial,
Cool.
um, and we're gonna listen on the way out to a song called "Always Wanted to," which
Nice.
is kind of like what we're talking about, right? It's
Yeah,
you always wanted to, you just didn't know you were going to.
absolutely.
All right, well, let's listen to that. It's a Mike Gormley show. Come on back. We'll talk to some more to Susannah B.